Yo, what up? We're back. It's been a couple, been a while, been a little bit. There was quite a lot of no movies, and then there was quite a lot of movies, and then there was also some other stuff in the way. So anyway, welcome to this mega episode this week. How's it going, George?
Yeah, it's going great. We have a shit ton of stuff to talk about. And we're kind of peeking behind the curtain here. We basically decided a month or so ago that we were just going to chat every 2 weeks because of the schedule and lives and other factors. And then when it got to last week, we were like, wow, doing this every 2 weeks, we've got shit tons of stuff to talk about. And then we didn't get to talk about it. So then we figured we'd just talk about all of that plus the new shit we also have to talk about. Now we're going to be here for 5 hours talking about the Sandman.
Yeah, everyone get your Spotify going, play some music in the background, have some whiskey with us. I don't know, just work through it with us. We got a lot to talk about, but I suppose we best start with what the hell we've been watching. And George, other than the several hundred things that we've watched together this week, you've watched something. What might that be?
I was on Amazon looking at the new Arsenal All or Nothing documentary that they produced. And it's really fun if you're into football, the Premier League, all that, and you accept that these shows are nothing but fun, soft PR pieces, whatever club it is they're covering. And you get every now and then you get the nice little nugget of the Premier League footballers either being A, like real life genuine people, or B, revealing just how out of touch and dumb they are. And either way, it's really fun.
Fair. We should maybe we should spin off into a football podcast. You have to get a different co-host though, because I don't know fucking anything about football.
Well, no, that would be the show. It would be me integrating you into the culture. I can show you how one of Tottenham's players was proud of himself for making baked beans.
Shit, I'd be proud of myself too if I could do that. Well, it sounds like you enjoyed yourself. I'm glad that you are seeking fun in the smaller things of life and enjoying these strange little weird Amazon ventures that they keep doing. Glad someone's watching them. What else have you been watching?
I also been watching some Nathan Fielder stuff. I've been watching Nathan For You, which you actually mentioned roughly like 10 months ago now or something like that.
Cast your mind back several episodes to the one line where I said it.
And I've always seen the little clips here and there of Nathan Fielder and the stuff he's in. I've always thought it was funny, but oh my God, the show is the like absurdity that it reaches and just how far it commits to it in its weird deadpan way. It's just like glorious television. It's just the concepts and the people that he's able to come up with and meet. Like it's just unreal. I watched the souvenir shop one recently where he gets the fake Johnny Depp, and it's unbelievable the lengths they go to.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. You've also been catching his new show, haven't you, George? What do you think of that?
Yes. So I was really interested in the idea that I'd kind of read about it. The Rehearsal is the show, right? It's basically the idea is if you could stage and pre-plan a meeting or a setting or an event or whatever and go through that, and someone like Nathan Fielder, who is as insane as he is and funny as he is, how we'd produce a show of that concept. And it's just like incredible watching it, and the way that he's able to it's that great mix of humor and accuracy in the way he analyzes himself and others, and the way he's able to spin it all and predict people like that, and the ways that it ends up actually working, and again just how absurd it is. It's just awesome to see.
Yeah, well, absurdity in every way, because of just like literally it's like a feat how they've managed to make a show like that. It's, oh my God. If you know
Yeah.
nothing about it, I recommend going in knowing nothing about it and just watching that first episode and just like your mind being blown every 6 minutes. Something just absolutely ridiculous happens and just completely throws you off. So yeah, it's a good one. Also in the watch list on streaming services is Netflix's new behemoth project that they've been working on forever, The Sandman. How have you been finding The Sandman?
So I've really enjoyed it. You say they've been talking about it forever, and it has felt like fucking forever that they've been talking about this show. It's one quick thing to note is Netflix are only putting it out. They don't produce the show themselves. I'm pretty sure it's still a Warner Brothers thing.
Oh, I see.
Because it's like part of DC, but not really. It's like fucking bizarre. And I started listening to the Audible audio drama version of the comics that they put out however many years ago. I listened to that a few months ago. I really got into it, like the world that it builds and the characters and everything like that. So I was interested to see what they do with the show visually and if they're able to actually capture that on screen. And I think it's a very decent mix of being a well-produced, for the most part, show that also is elevated by having some familiarity with the IP, the whatever you'd call it from the get-go. Because even me, someone who has zero history with the actual source material, comics, having had what I'm pretty sure it's considered a very faithful adaptation, the audio drama version. Having that and seeing how that's been translated onto the screen, it's really interesting. I think they did a pretty good job with it overall.
Yeah. It's one of those wild shows where I didn't think it was hooking me in episode 1 because it just felt so bizarre. There's some weird stylistic things that immediately throw you. There's a weird stylistic thing that we're going to get to in a minute. But I just found that it was quite full on in its way of like, the world building has to happen so damn quickly and you need to kind of understand it really, really quick before you can even start the series. So that's a weird stop-start thing with the first episode as well. But then I found myself like, as we meet new characters and especially ones that we know from like other slight fringe properties of DC and that kind of that side of DC's comics, I don't know, it's just good. It captures like a kind of, I don't know, I kind of felt like it had the same vibe as like those old, I say old, they're not really that old, but like your Merlins and your Robin Hoods or whatever, those BBC series where it's just like clearly very fun for everyone in the cast, everyone in the crew. It's fun to like live with those characters for a bit. And it's very similar in terms of like lore and world building-y, like kind of stylistic stuff. All kind of feels like that. And then the other thing I was constantly thinking about was like just how cool it is that we've got like basically a full-blown emo protagonist. It's been a long time since we had one of them. So I'm happy about that.
That's true. I completely agree with the the hook takes quite a while to actually reveal itself in the show. And that's a hangover where it maybe is too faithful maybe to the source material, where in the audio drama it's very similar, where the first chapter is an hour long and it's all saying that stage of when the main character Dream is captured and stuff that's going on around him, and it shows stuff about people that in the end don't really end up mattering to the story whatsoever. And then the second chapter is considerably shorter and just a bit of a bridge to get on to how the story actually begins with him looking to recover these things. And I think it would have been, if they found a way to crunch those episodes together, maybe remove some of like the gargoyle shit in episode 2 or whatever, and just set that as an hour and have that end with him on the very clear path of him having those following episodic journeys and fun and all that. I think that would have been way cleaner for the series.
Yeah, I think so too. It is also nice as well to have a who's who of just like British actors pop up on screen as well. It feels like we haven't had a show like that in so long, unless it was produced by the BBC and 10 people watched it and only 2 people are in it. So it like feels pretty huge to have that back. And even like the non-British actors that pop up, you kept on your toes, because it's not like it's like well-known people who make you crack a smile when you realize who it is, but you almost don't expect them despite that, you know? Like, even if you've read the cast, you kind of don't expect how they're going to manifest themselves in the show. So that's pretty cool as well. I think it's a very, very... It's a strange one. I'm actually quite impressed that they've managed to make it, if that makes sense. Like, that they got... Because it's... I'm going to say this quite bluntly. It's very, like, camp. Like, it's very kitsch camp, that kind of fantasy. Like, it's a very expansive world, but the way that they're displaying it visually is very, like, comic-y, you know, graphic novel-y. And it just is one of those things where its stylistic integrity is just, like, weird, because you wouldn't expect Hot Off the Grey Man for Netflix to be publishing something like that, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I think it's cool. I'm glad it's been made. It's been interesting, like, following the production hell as well, and seeing it, you know, seeing the ways they've had to dart around COVID, because obviously this was all being shot decades ago. And that's like, yeah, it's just weird. And it seems like people like it too, because it was huge when it dropped, according to this article, which I'm not really surprised by, because the marketing ramp up just before its release was astounding. I don't think I've seen, maybe it's just because, again, Britain and being loudly British and stuff, I don't know I've seen as much shit about something coming out other than for Star Wars in my Google News or whatever. Like, I wasn't even particularly, I've never read The Sandman, I've never listened to whatever, I've never been involved with any of it. Kind of like Neil Gaiman, and always have, but I've never gone out of my way to, like, every time there's an article on Google or something, I'll click it. And yet my whole thing was filled with it for a good week or two. Like, I knew when it came out, not because I knew the release date, but because I knew when people started talking about it really loudly. So yeah. So I'm not surprised. Any thoughts on this big sweep that it's taken?
Well, yeah, I'm kind of with you, and it is quite shocking the job they've been able to do, considering it is such an obscure character. It kind of feels like a thing where Netflix has managed to... It's done that thing where it's or not conned, because I think it's ended up being a good thing, but that thing where it tells you something's important, or it makes you think something's important, and therefore it becomes important, you know?
Yeah.
Because it didn't have, like, any real momentum behind it as a property itself. I mean, yeah, the comic's popular and all that, but I mean, like, that's a drop in the bucket compared to, you know, what other media franchises are established these days.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there really is something to like you were saying, just how, like, weird and fantastical it commits to being. And you can absolutely see back in the late 80s, early 90s, a comic with this shit in it being published. And the way that it manages to hold on to visuals that are really quite, you know, striking on the screen. Yeah, I've said that in the second episode, it is when they have the big build up to him returning to Earth to go off and find his stuff. It's as simple as him being in this vast stretch of water talking to Lucian, and then it's just so extra in the way that the water parts like he's fucking Moses, and this stairwell goes down, and then the water swallows him up again. It's just so over the top and silly and fantastical. But the way it commits to it, it ends up just really working and being great to watch.
Yeah. It kind of, it stuns me. Like, you can smell the when the comic was made, but you can also see that this sounds like I'm going to be dunking on it, but, like, it feels like Twilight as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's got that kind of, that extraness about it that, like, if this had come out 10 years ago, it would have absolutely fit with the market then. So that's another reason why I'm kind of stunned that it still fits now. Because I was watching it like, ooh, this looks like Twilight. And then it just, that thought left me as I started watching, you know, him go to hell and do all this shit down there or whatever and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty wild. It's a wild little show. And then one of the things that we both noticed like immediately, which apparently is a stylistic thing, is it's shot anamorphic. And I feel like someone in the like finishing and coloring team go to de-squeeze it, and then they're like, why don't we just not de-squeeze it fully, and we just let them all look like matchstick people, and you know, and there's like a weird, you know, every time the camera tilts up or down, you just want to throw up because the whole world kind of wraps around you and shit. It's definitely like leaning hard into it. And I really, for the first like 10 minutes of the first episode, I was like, nah, this is going to make me throw up by the end of the episode. But then when you see it in context with like when they're in the big fantastical worlds and stuff, I think it adds like a whole new layer of style to those scenes. I do think it's a bit over the top on like just your average walk-in shots though. But this is, again, that kind of camp overtness in style that I just think, again, no one at Netflix would have approved that until they saw it and approved it, you know? Like, if you gave them the idea, hey, we're going to deliberately fuck up this image, like make a mistake with this image, and you're going to like it. And then they do, you know? Yeah. Did this catch you as much as it caught me?
Yeah, it's very noticeable that I think even if you're not quite aware of what it is that's the effect is, I think a lot of people are going to go, this doesn't look like right, or it doesn't look normal. Yeah. And I think there is an argument, like you were saying, in the kind of like grander dream sequences or whatever, where it ends up helping the visuals. But I think going like whole hog, having it for the entire show, I'm not sure I agree with that decision. It's something that I feel like I adapted to it after, you know, in the second, third, fourth episode, watching it for 2-3 minutes, I kind of stopped thinking about it. But I can't help but think what it would look like if you were to use it a bit more sparingly and have that contrast be heightened when it is going full wacky dream shit.
Yeah. I think the only real benefit of it being in every shot is you have that kind of because he has a very distinguished like silhouette. His hair is wacky, his coat is long, he's tall, he's got big fuck off boots and stuff, and he's very pale. And so when you have that stretchy man, you know, there's loads of shots, for example, in episode 3 with Constantine. There's a shot where they just rip off the Matrix, and it's like the water dripping from one side of the bridge, and you just have him stood really stretchy Elastigirl looking ass, and that like really works with his like silhouette. So you can see where it like, I guess it's kind of a thing of like what made old Neil have flashbacks to his comics, I suppose, right? Like it's that kind of thing of like, how do you capture the art style without literally capturing the art style? So yeah, I don't know. It's definitely like, this article implies it's divisive. I don't know anyone was divided by it. I think everyone was just like, what the fuck are they doing? This looks stupid. But you know, I don't know. I think it was definitely an interesting choice. And again, another thing of like, how the fuck did they get away with it? Especially because Netflix, I don't know if anyone knows this, but Netflix are notoriously brutal about image quality and image style and stuff. Like you absolutely blanket have to have X% of your show needs to be like cinema 4K, not like Ultra HD 4K or GoPro 4K upscaled, like X%, I don't know how much of it, it's like 70 or something stupid like that, has to be clinical cinema 4K so that it can age well with the platform. And it's like every time, so film grain, for example, you're not allowed to put film grain directly into your image on Netflix. And every time you do see film grain on a Netflix show, it's your device processing film grain onto it so that when it compresses, it doesn't lose quality behind the grain flicking through on every single frame. So it displays noise and grain over the top of the compressed image. Long story short, like to deliberately fuck up your image is to threaten Netflix to just not publish your show. So it's quite impressive that they, you know, again, they didn't make it, but they very strongly greenlit it and probably did pass some pretty hefty chunks of money back and forth between Warner Brothers and stuff. So it's like, it's just wild. It's just wild to me.
Yeah. I think the case, it must have been a Neil Gaiman backed decision, because everything I've seen about the show is about the whole story is, for decades I've fought off shit adaptations that wouldn't be able to support the original, and it's the same thing with the audio drama again. Like, he's so heavily involved in it, and that he narrates the entire fucking thing. So I'm sure that's what it would have been, where it was a decision that he either came up with or backed, and that's why I ended up staying there. Yeah,
it's wild. But there you go. Speaking of taking risks, here's a company that's decided suddenly not to take any for the next fucking 10 years. Oh, look, it's the other side of Warner Brothers doing ridiculous shit, like fucking destroying every film they're making, every single one, all the footage of every single film they're making. Scoob is dead. What else is dead? Loads is dead. There's another one that I'll skip to the article in a second. There's a big notorious one, but they've just killed so much shit, George. What's happening, man?
It's so sad that I have to come to bat for Scoob. Like, what the actual, have you seen the obviously the original headline reaction outburst craziness was they're cancelling these movies that are 95% fucking done.
Yeah.
But then the answers trickled out later that day or the next day, and how it's about like making like just saving money, and like basically it's like, you know, cashing in your insurance and shit like that with like the tax rebate. It's just like fucking embarrassing. Like this media company treating this as shit as it may be, this art, and using it like this just to make back a few bucks. It's just, you know, we say it every time we talk now, but it's just so fucking bleak.
Yeah. I'm just like, because part of me, I'm gonna have to word this very, very carefully so as to not offend myself when I listen to this back. Part of me thinks that there is no shame in canning a project if you really know it's not going to work. For example, you're about to put out, you know, Morbius, and you know no one is going to like it, and you're kind of like, it's presumably artistically been stripped of anything that it ever was going to be long before this moment. There is kind of a strength in kind of admitting defeat and just moving on from a project, so that the director, the producer, the cinematographer, the editor don't get that stain put on their mark, you know, provided everyone agrees that it is a stain. But like, I don't know, there is also a thing of like, so I feel like we're gonna have to dance around the bush without saying anything unless we switch to this article. But like, Batgirl, they test screened it, that it wasn't just like 90% made, like they were test screening it. It was made, it was a film. And you can't really, I mean, you can test screen an assembly, like it likely would have been an hour over screen time, like it planned to be or whatever. But there is no, this isn't like this is a stain on the people who are making it. This is like, I don't know, again, like that whole thing of like Star Wars, when it was first test screened, they just re-edited it and now it's the biggest fucking movie ever. You know, like, I don't know how you can because I'm fairly sure this might be a complete factoid or whatever. Someone cite this for me, but I'm fairly sure they also test screened Thingy. What's the other superhero film?
Black Adam.
Yeah. Did they test screen that Black Adam, and it got similar response from the test audience? And yet they're still making one, but they fully canned the other. Again, it is literally just like, as you say, it's cashing in. It's like there is no other incentive for this, but it doesn't make any sense because it's fucking Warner Brothers. Like they're not in a scrap. They've already spent, millions, billions on this kind of shit. I don't understand it.
Well, I think Warner Brothers are apparently like indebted in like the billions of dollars apparently, and that's this is they're getting this like this tax return or whatever by whatever money they get by setting these movies on fire and all that. But I have to say, in that I can maybe see a decade or so ago seeing and somewhat agreeing with the view you presented a minute ago of like, what are you actually losing in terms of not putting out these movies that you think are going to be shit no one's going to watch. But in the landscape now of like home releases and streaming movies premiering there and all that, I just don't really think there's an argument, like, artistically or creatively, for not preserving these in some way. Yeah. Like, regardless of quality, just knowing the work and effort and time that's been put into it, like, I just don't really see how at the end of the day you can say that it all amounts to being worth more, just never putting it anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's about a million reasons why it physically cannot be worth more by not doing it. You know what I mean? Like, just budget spent and everything. But even this is why I said I had to word it carefully, because now I'm picking apart my own argument, right? Of like, you'd sit through the credits, you'd see, a breakout set designer doing their first job, and regardless of the fact that the movie flopped, their set design being in a AAA movie is enough for them to get significant amounts of jobs after this. And yeah, they will always still have Batgirl on their CV or whatever, but no one will ever fucking see Batgirl, and no one will ever be able to, I guess it's, at what point does this affect the below the line more than it affects the above the line? And as usual with these kind of philosophical questions of capitalism and the studio systems, probably it already affects the below the line more than it affects the above the line. So like, to screw it even more is just screwing it even more. I don't know. It just seems wild. And then meanwhile, they double down on this shit. Joker 2, the musical, the movie, coming out 2024. Shit, I have no idea what to think. Literally no idea what to think.
I mean, I've seen a few jokes about like the musical theatre kid bumping into the Joker incel kid in the screening and like falling in love and shit like that. And like, yeah, I hate how much I actually want to see this just from the concept alone. But I have to say that people seem to be quite like positive and upbeat about the Lady Gaga news, the casting that she's going to be opposite him. Yeah. I just find Lady Gaga on screen to like be just so fucking like, annoying most of the time and like so over the top. And I mean, I guess in a way that is what you'd maybe want for Harley Quinn, but I just can't see this movie being anything other than insufferable, but really interesting at the same time.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Shit. I don't know. I mean, I feel like we're going to have to do our thing that we accidentally did with Joker 1, where we went and saw it multiple times, like video essayists or something, about to drop our sick Joker ending explained video or whatever. I feel like we need to go and properly inspect this movie. I'm sure it will be fine at best, and no, wait, fine at worst, because that was what the last one was, wasn't it? It was fine. I wonder if it will have the same cultural shock as the last one did, given its musicalness.
No, I think that's going to soften it in a way. Because I think people are going to see that. Well, no, it depends how they market it, obviously. If they push it as that, I don't think it will hit as well. If they manage to hide it from people, because regular people aren't, keeping up with shit like this, or they're not going to remember this 2 years from now when it comes out. If they push it as a like proper full musical, and again, there's a world where it isn't that, and it's just a regular Joker sequel that has like a dream sequence musical number here and there and things like that, which I think would be like really disappointing and lame, and like by far the least interesting way you could take this interesting take. But yeah, I don't really see it having the impact it did whenever the first one came out 7 years ago now. How long ago? How's time work?
Don't know. Thought it was a couple of days ago. I remember it like it was yesterday. Him having his little giggle on his bus and giving that lady his card. And I don't know. Nearly kills that guy at the end, doesn't he? He locks the dwarf guy and the other guy in his hotel room or something. I don't know. Joker happened. Joker 2 will happen too. Star Wars looks all right. What do you think? What do you think of Andor, and why do you think of Andor?
Oh, this show, it is promising to be decent. It's flirting with the idea of being like, all right, and that like really scares me because I watched the trailer because again I'm like so torn on just committing to anything Star Wars at this point. And it does seem like it's managing to ride that balance of just about having something you recognize. Like if you were to fill some corporate quota of things from past Star Wars things that we want people to know, it's there. Like Cassian Andor, it's like the ultimate example. But even stuff like that Senate chamber, but then setting it however many years after episode 3, 10, 15, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
It is twisting it ever so slightly to bring something that is kind of new. And I have zero faith right now that it's going to stick with that. And again, they just like chuck in some random bullshit when the series actually comes out or as the series moves along. Nothing right now is that.
Yeah.
But I just refuse to get my hopes up that they're actually going to commit to this the whole way through.
Yeah. I don't know. I really don't know whether I should be hopeful, because what intimidates me is this is the first time they've finally grappled with this, or well, I thought they were going to with Solo, I suppose. But my whole thing of being like Star Wars was a Western, introduced a bunch of gangster elements, introduced a bunch of like spooky, shady crime film elements, and then no one did anything with it. And there's just this gap where that is the perfect movie could come from that. And it's just whether they, not only do they commit to not being wanky all the time, but they also commit to like just making that, like Cassian Andor popping up in Rogue One for the first time, point blank killing a dude, no remorse, no question about whether he shot first, because he just did. Like, this is where we step out of the fairy tale and we explore some kind of other side of the world that nothing else has managed to do yet, or nothing else has given us that. Because we get Mando brings the Western back and does it well. Boba Fett does nothing well, so it doesn't count. And the crime stuff in Boba Fett is so embarrassingly one note that it can just fuck off forever. Like, what we need is a film or a series with the setting of Solo without the glamour and glitz of Han Solo and his sexy Game of Thrones wife or whatever. Can't remember what happens in that movie. So I don't know. Like, Andor could do that. And it's a character which I think we said this last episode, but it's a character where there is no character. They have basically free reign to do whatever the fuck they want. All they have to do is make sure that he's a seedy underbelly, wisecracking smuggler hero man or whatever, you know. And like they can make him whatever they want him to be. He can be as fear-inducing as he needs to be and stuff. Like, I guess we'll see. Because shit, and also the idea that they actually filmed this and they didn't just like point a camera at a monitor for 2 hours. Like, yeah. I love me VFX technology, and when they did it for Mando, the thing I loved about Mando wasn't the volume stuff. It was we'll do the volume, but then we'll also shoot miniatures. We'll also shoot, you know, this kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then you have this cohesive whole that resembles the original Star Wars is. And now you have the polar opposite of like Obi-Wan, where the actor doesn't need to be there. Their face is basically just slapped onto a little fucking 3D animated creature. Like this is like, suddenly they've gone from like what feels like discount show to like, we have a budget now, we're outside, those trees, they're real, or at least one of them is, you know, that kind of thing. Like, holy shit, they finally got outside. Is that a COVID thing? I don't think so, because I feel like this was before COVID. This is like remnants of a COVID time.
I'm not sure about when. I'm assuming is a COVID shoot, a COVID production or anything. But yeah, the lack of volume is like immediately clear in this trailer, and yeah, it's wild to see a Star Wars thing and go, oh wow, they got like full sets going on, and you like take a step back and realize you just said that about a Star Wars thing, and go like, oh my fucking god,
yeah, the
state of this franchise. But yeah, it is pretty cool to see them, you know, going back to that and it looking as clean as it does. Again, fucking Charlie, I don't want to do this. I don't want to get hopeful here and think there's going to be like quality to draw me in.
I worry the writing is what's going to take the hit in exchange for the visuals, as the opposite happened for Kenobi. Well, I mean, the writing was pretty dog-ass in Kenobi as well, but you know. I don't know. I really don't know. And I should also point out, again, I don't necessarily dislike the volume and the usage of the tech like that. I think there's amazing applications for it and all that kind of stuff. The way it's been used in Star Wars is like the same thing as saying, oh, that looks like a Marvel movie. Like it becomes one homogeneous mass with no clear style or artistic direction, other than it has to look like the one that came before it or the one that came next to it. And this isn't doing that. This is they're just shooting a movie. It looks like shooting a movie, and it's going to be X amount of episodes long, and we'll leave it at that, you know. So we'll see. Yeah. Speaking of shooting a movie, and this one feels very, very shooting a movie out of nowhere to me, because I had no idea this was happening until it came out. Hulu comes out, drops one of the fucking best Predator movies made ever, just drops it on streaming like nobody's business. For basically, they'll receive no money for releasing this film, and it fucking slaps. What did you think of Prey?
I thought Prey was fucking awesome. I rewatched Predator, the original, I want to say like 3-4 years ago or something. I remember thinking, that was kind of cool. And just sort of like leaving it there. It's one of those things where I kind of like put it in the rest of that like 80s, 90s shit of, I just feel like a lot of people our age like tell themselves they love this shit.
Yeah.
But watching this, it was so nice just to see a well-made, fun action movie that takes itself seriously in 2022 in a way that it just has a nice, simple story with a clear protagonist who is easy to root for, and watch them go through 90 minutes of fun. Or maybe not fun for them. It's fucking pretty traumatizing, I'd say. But yeah, it's filled with like really cool action and a great antagonist in a way that it's not like a lot of franchises now where it's like just sucking its own dick, where it's all about how badass the Predator is. The Predator is just put as the antagonist of this movie and as a force, and it isn't about the history of the Predator or how awesome the Predator is or how cool the Predator is. It's all there to serve this own story, and it worked really well.
Yeah. Clean is what I'd describe it as, because it starts, it ends, it wraps itself in a bow, it's done. Like, the point isn't, there's things for everyone, including the fucking idiots who want a Predator cinematic universe in 2022 or whatever. Like, but that's not the point. It was just made to be, I don't know, this is going to sound like this is a backhanded compliment or something, but it feels like someone made a really good short film proof of concept, and then they just took that script and expanded the beats so that it was a movie instead of a 15-minute short or whatever. And for all we know, given the director's history, that literally could have happened and we just have no idea. But it does just feel like so clean and back to normal of like, I don't know, when was the last time we saw just a film, you know? And actually, to be fair, this week's other stuff that we're going to talk about, we've just suddenly had like 4 or 5 just films that stand on their own come out in one go. Mm. And this is like the first time in months that we've been given this, perhaps because COVID meant that everyone with a brain was still inside and everyone without a brain was making Star Wars. And now, now we have them all back. But I don't know. I was so taken aback at how just everything about it as well, like the choice of protagonist, the choice of setting, is a challenging story to have picked to display with a Predator in it as well. Like, it's just like, it is literally, I used to joke to you about like whenever I want to come up with ideas, I keep coming up with this idea of a generator that will just give you one genre or one batch of characters and then a second one, and you have to just make, so like pirates, dinosaurs, you gotta make, you know, or pirates, dragons, you gotta make how to change a dragon or whatever, or not pirates, I don't fucking know, I can't remember. But the point is, like, it feels like that. It feels like someone's gone, wow, I love this time period, I want to make something dumb and fun in this time period, and then someone waved Predator at him and he's like, oh shit, yeah, why not? And then they made a really fucking good Predator movie because the point wasn't to make the next Predator or whatever, you know? So, yeah. And it's just so good. All the little... So it's such a journey movie. There's so much that happens. And in the same way that it kind of happens in Predator 1 as well, they're like, you have to learn the Predator to be able to fight back against the Predator. And so you just watch someone meticulously come up with all the ideas that eventually culminate in how they're going to get rid of the Predator. It's just fucking awesome. It's just so clean and simple and just has fun with it. So I'm really glad, really glad it came out.
I could not believe just how simple the movie is. With just, again, it just feels like a novelty at this point to just have a movie where a protagonist's issue and goal is set up so early on the movie in a way that, it's like quite clear the framework they lay out, but that isn't a bad thing. It's a good thing because it means you know that they know what they're doing with this story and the way they chug along and they have the adversity hitter and they hit all the beats you need it to. And it's just, I could not believe how just everything they need to do was in this movie and just how it like ticks every box it needs to. This fucking Predator movie in 2022, like reinvigorating my love of cinema.
Yeah. I mean, I raised the question then, like, do we think that our cynical problem with modern cinema is that it misses stuff? Like, I'm really trying to think of, I guess, like, Thor is the most recent Marvel thing we caught or whatever. I'm trying to think of how that doesn't feel like it hits the beats like this does, but it feels more mechanical every time it does hit a beat. Like, what is the balance? What is the nuance here that makes them so different? And why can I not put my finger on it?
I think it might be that in something like Thor, when you recognize it's doing that, it feels like it's doing it because it thinks it should. because it knows that that's how these movies are. Whereas Prey is something where it has to hit all of them because it knows that that's how you tell a good story, not because you need that to tell a story in general, so that you can surround that story with a bunch of dumb bullshit to put in the rest of your movie and things like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like the cliche line, I guess, of like everything needs to serve the story. Whereas in the fucking Marvel movies, the stories are there to serve whatever shit they're throwing on the screen to begin with.
Yeah, that's lovely. Twitch, clip that. That is a line right there, what he just said. Holy shit. So yeah, Prey, very, very good. Another movie that came out, and this one I almost think is the perfect in-between for what we were just talking about. Like the in-between of a Marvel movie and Prey, I would say, is Bullet Train that came out around however long ago it was, a week ago or something, week and a bit ago. What did you think of that? Because we haven't talked about it, and obviously I'm dying to talk about it.
I'm actually going to let you go first on this one.
Holy shit, okay. So I'm sat there quite taken aback by everything. It's very Deadpool in everything that it does, and not just because it's made by a Deadpool guy, but like it's very like structurally and comically Deadpool-y. And yet, again, it had that refreshing thing of it starts, it ends, everything happens just for the story. The story starts and ends, and it's just fucking dumb, manic action fun for me. And I feel like, again, I'm not sat there watching it like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened, because it means that, whatever, where like nothing about it took itself seriously enough for me to ever slip out of consciousness and miss, I think I enjoyed it for just it being, again, a dumb action movie. Yeah, I think that was my thought. What were you thinking?
It was a movie that I was, it surprised me how much I enjoyed it when I was watching it. Again, it has its moments with its characters and one-liners and fun little set pieces and things like that, where it's just like very easy to get into, and like an actual bullet train, it moves along at a really good pace.
Yeah,
with a few bumps along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'd say I enjoyed it quite a lot. There were a couple of things I'd maybe go into where it took me out of the movie a little bit every now and then. But yeah, in terms of just like being a very easy to watch, fun action movie in a cinema, it kind of just like delivered everything it needed to for me.
Yeah. One of the things that you just said about a thing or two that like kind of yanks you out of the movie for a second. There's one big one that happens, one very big one, and it reminded me of, I can't remember which 50 Shades movie it is, but do you remember the one? It's the one where his psycho ex-girlfriend is hanging around his flat or something, and then he gets in a helicopter crash or something, and then the punchline of the movie is he gives Dakota Johnson a box, and she opens it, and inside is a fucking keyring or something that is Comic Sans and says like, will you marry me or whatever. And the punchline of the movie is like just a fucking hold on shot of a Comic Sans keyring. That in human form happens at the 3/4 mark or whatever of this movie. And you kind of, I guess I won't spoil it because there's probably some sad fuck who's actually happy about it when they see it. But like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I think I audibly said, oh, for fuck's sake, because it just hit me so hard. And even that I didn't hate because it was just stupid. Like I'm looking at it and it's just fucking outrageous. And like, I don't know, there were a few moments where I was just like, well, hold on now you're taking the piss. And yet it still lulled me into a sense of, just I don't know. It's like that friend who does something absolutely fucking ridiculous, and then they stop you and they're like, "Just go along with it. It's all good. We're having fun. This is a fun night out, or whatever, you know." And then it carries on, and you kind of see why they did what they did. You know, there's plenty of moments like that. I don't know whether that moment struck you as hard as it hit me like a fucking bullet train in the cinema.
Trust me, it fucking did. Watching it on the screen, it was a thing of I honestly was prepared for it. Like, having sat through 90 minutes of, or however long of the movie, I was kind of just waiting for not exactly that, but, you know, something surrounding that world to happen.
Yeah.
The analogy I'd give for this movie is it's babysitting an eccentric kid, where like you kind of learn what it's about and you can learn to enjoy it, and it builds up a fair amount of goodwill. But every now and then it like pushes its luck a bit too far, and you have to tell it to calm the fuck down for a second.
Yeah.
And exactly that, I like the moment you're talking about is you know, nail on the head.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the end, it like I say, it builds up that goodwill with its fun. It's the presentation and the characters and the performances. I think that's kind of like the trio here.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like anyone who watches this movie, they're going to walk away knowing that the pair, the brothers, are by far like the highlight of this fucking movie.
Yeah.
And, like Brian Terry Hill and no, what's the actor's name? He was in Joker. Do you remember him? The guy who plays Lemon. He's in Arkham Asylum. He's in one scene. He's the record keeper, and Joaquin Phoenix has to steal the records from him.
That's him? What the fuck? Wait, you're talking about Kick-Ass guy, right? Is that the guy?
No. Lemon.
The other guy.
Yeah.
Their names are too similar. The other guy, right? Yeah. Oh wow. Now I'm seeing it now. Yeah. Fuck. Yeah, no, they steal the show in that movie, I feel like. Well, and them and Brad Pitt just literally, again, rocking up and just being Brad Pitt for the whole movie. It gave me that satisfaction that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood did, where you just get to kind of like watch Brad Pitt live his life for a little bit on screen and not like act or anything, just live his life. And then that, like, the story of the brothers, it's ham-fisted and over the top and camp and all that kind of stuff, but like you do, like every twist and turn does actually yank at your heartstrings or whatever. Like, they fucking nail it, and the acting across the board is really good. I think there are just some fucking wild casting, wild moments with said wild casts. But I don't know, it's fun. It's just fun, and I don't know, from the trailer I knew it was going to be that, and it delivered on its expectations. Definitely a popcorn fun movie, and I'm glad I saw it. And also, actually, to be fair, like, there are some moments in it where I'm like, oh shit, that's like actual good movie is happening. Like, the kind of again, kind of dancing around spoilers, but the final piece of the puzzle arrives on the train at one point, and the atmosphere and shit and the way they shoot it and the style of it, and oh my god, it's like you know exactly what they're doing, and they do it so fucking cleanly. I'm stunned.
Watching the movie in the cinema, there were about 10 different times throughout it where I went, fuck, this movie is such a Charlie movie. It is so made for you, and how just out there it gets, and how epic and just cool it is.
Yeah.
And all the influences and everything like that.
Good.
I have to say, though, it is a movie that, having left it and thought about it every now and then, it is quite striking to me how David Leitch made this, right? Deadpool 2 man.
Yeah.
It is like very clear that he just takes inspiration from himself. I was thinking about the end of this movie and how do I do this? A character is flung through the air and has to be cushioned by a giant, soft, pillowy object. Exactly like in Deadpool 2, where the lucky character is flung through the air and is cushioned by a giant, soft,
fluffy
object. and then the final antagonist of the movie is dealt with in a certain way, exactly as the final antagonist of Deadpool 2 is dealt with in a certain way, like beat for beat, shot for shot, not for shot for shot. But it's like the exact same moment where it's just a funny thing of like people rag on Michael Bay for reusing footage in Transformers 3 or whatever. But like this is exactly the same shit, and people do this and get away with it all the time. I thought that was really funny.
Well, but even like basic structurally, like it almost feels like, do you remember when everyone walks out of Deadpool 1 and they were like, what the fuck did I just watch? I don't understand it, because it like darts around so much. It felt like every time it did it in this, there's one punchline where it does it one too many times on purpose. And that feels like it's referencing itself again. It feels like it's going, hey, remember I confused everybody back in Deadpool? Now I'm doing it again. But this time you're laughing along, and this time you understand it or whatever. I don't know. But there's kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm too trusting of it because of how fun the movie is. I almost feel like it's less of a like, I'm going to rip this from my last movie, and more of a like, okay, I didn't nail it how I thought I was going to nail it in that last one. So I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to do it better and do it right this time or whatever. You know, it's like, it felt like there was a kind of, I don't know, he takes a big sigh as he walks out of the editing room, and he's like, yeah, you guys fucking nailed it this time. Well done. You know, and he gets to go home and, I don't know, bring champagne for his wife, whatever. And, you know, it's like magic has happened and he's finally got what he needed to out there. I don't know. It's just wild. It's a good little fun movie.
Yeah, fun time. I went into this expecting it to be I feel like there are these movies every few years that come out that have like lots of A-listers or like, you know, high B-listers, things like that, in an ensemble piece. It's like a really fun movie that probably costs a bit too much to make and isn't going to make as much money as it needs to. And it just ends up going in that hole of movies where like people watch it on a plane and go, oh, that was good. I feel like this is exactly what that's going to end up being. Like, what's the best example? That Bad Times at the El Royale movie, which I don't know if you would have seen it, but that's like Jeff Bridges, John Hamm, Chris Hemsworth, Dakota Johnson, but all these big names in it's actually not very similar, but it's a bit of a similar structure in there. It like darts around all those different stories before they're all brought together and things like that. Where I just think studios don't know how to market movies like this quite yet.
Yeah,
it's kind of like you're waiting for that one to come out of the woodwork and like properly smash it. So yeah, I feel like this isn't a movie that's like long for this world or long for the public eye, but at the end of the day, I think it's a good little movie on its own right.
Yeah. So are we on? Is this the final movie now? Is there? Am I missing anything?
Yep.
Oh, there you go. Now he's said it. Okay, so thanks America for releasing Jordan Peele's Nope significantly earlier than we did, and also than poor old Australia did. We'll come to that in a minute. I'm shocked that it took us this long to physically be able to watch Nope, given the way they tried to market the film and avoid any kind of, like, you are supposed to go in blind. And by staggering the release, we thought this was going to happen. And we mentioned this last episode, I think. But yeah, it absolutely did happen. Like, it is physically impossible to go into Nope blind after it's been out for X amount of time and everyone's talked about it. And then the fucking studio came out with a fucking trailer that spoils the entire movie. And again, poor Australia had this like 90-minute fucking trailer that has every single frame of the film in it. Like, holy shit. But aside from that side rant, we did get to watch it, and I fucking loved it. What did you think of Nope?
About 30 minutes into the movie, I was thinking about how like unreasonably annoyed I've been the last 3 weeks. I haven't even been that excited with this movie. I expected it to be good, and I think that Jordan Peele has a lot of talent and it had a lot of promise. But 30 minutes into this movie, I got simultaneously more pissed that I had to wait 3 weeks to watch this. And yet, in my mind, I was like, waiting 3 extra weeks for this was worth it in the end. This movie is fucking incredible. It is such a great leap compared to Get Out and Us, just in pure like filmmaking terms. Like watching this on a big screen is just so fucking great, and the way that the movie invites you to watch it like that, and all the different shots you have where you really are like asked to dart your eyes around the screen and look for shit, and the way that the movie uses that to make you cack your pants at times, it is such a great achievement. I don't tend to talk like that or say things like that. I feel like it ends up like it's just really false and over the top and just not deserved a lot of the time. But I really just was watching this like, oh my God, I cannot believe that a studio horror movie looks like this and is doing the stuff that it's doing, and it's working so well. I really love this movie as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it is the you know, you have horror and then you have someone who really, really, really understands horror doing not inherently horror. And that is what that is. That is like everything like honestly one of the most like tense, exhilarating movie experiences to go and see. It's definitely this year, if not like in fucking ages. But like it's like breathtaking. You are fully just immersed, staring at it. And yeah, and my only regret with it is that like we looked at the IMAX screenings a couple of weeks ago when we were trying to book something, and Nope was the only thing that was going to be being played in IMAX, and I kind of just assumed, oh, it's just going to be film played on IMAX cinema, but it's fully shot IMAX. Like, we should absolutely go and fucking see this movie in IMAX. I was sat there like, oh my God, can you imagine? I would be shitting myself if I had seen that for the first time in IMAX. Like, full blown crap in pants, shitting myself.
It's amazing because it manages to do both. It manages to do the spectacle side of things, where I don't even want to get into examples because I feel like it's going to spoil what the actual magic is that happens. But it also manages to do the more like intimate elements of horror as well. Like that main first fake out set piece, which I feel like I don't want to go too much into, where let's say a character slowly reveals themselves in front of Daniel Kaluuya, let's say, and just watching it happen in this just single take that just holds exactly on what you're looking at. It's just so fucking unnerving just watching it happen on the screen. And it's so clear that the guy, Jordan Peele, just like gets how to do this shit and gets how to unnerve you and creep you out. It's just so, you really feel like you're just like everything he wants you to be feeling, he gets you to feel.
Yeah.
As an audience member, it's just fucking so weird and great to experience it.
Yeah. And obviously, like, I'm not going to be around, like, repeat the same thing, but throughout all of his films, the whole gag is comedy director, comedy writer will always get horror better than everyone else because of, like, timings and everything like that. But this movie, I think, especially, like, nails it more than ever before. Like, and even comedic moments, like there's a few scenes in the movie which could very, very easily teeter into that Marvel, like, no fucker on earth would say this. And yet it is so tastefully approached that, and again, this is maybe a thing again of it serving a purpose, right? Marvel does it because they need a cheap laugh. Like, this needs, it's like a joke in this movie is like someone coming up to your skull, hitting a fucking hole into it so that you can let some of the shit that you've just been like pressurized into from the rest of the movie. And like every single one serves a serious purpose in relieving you for that second throwing you off the tracks just to then pull you back in again straight after, and all that kind of stuff. Like, easily, and I this will be my conclusion sentence by the end of this talk as well, and hopefully you'll understand what I'm trying to say. But I would easily say that at the very least, like 3/4 of this movie are like perfect, like actual perfect, like no changes, perfect movie. The other quarter, I would say, like, and I think I wrote this on Letterboxd. I said it was like only pretty good, right? And it not necessarily in like literally the 3/4 mark it goes downhill or anything like that, but like that thing of like, I want to really emphasize how much of this movie I would regard as actual perfect, like, filmmaking. That's wild. You know, and even the pretty good stuff is still like 4 times as good as fucking anything else we've seen in ages. But yeah.
I had a similar thought in that I was thinking on the way home about stuff that wasn't hitting quite as hard for me in the movie. And it is just kind of a testament to the rest of it and how that stuff sticks out because it isn't as fucking great as everything else.
Yeah.
I'd say a lot of that, for me anyway, it revolved a lot around a character that's introduced in the movie and kind of forgotten about and then brought back near the end of the movie as a bit of a... They're not like one of those prop characters where they're like only there to serve everyone else, but I feel like they like teeter on that. I don't know how clear I'm being, like if you're like maybe grabbing onto who I'm talking about.
I'm thinking I am, yeah.
A certain deep voiced individual, maybe, let's say.
Yeah.
Where it's a thing of, I feel like compared to everything else that's in the movie, there wasn't quite enough time put into this for it to be anything. They just end up feeling very peripheral to everything else to me.
Well, they're super peripheral, and then we're expected to welcome them in with open arms for the big, you know, the big kind of last parts of the movie. And that kind of feels like they're stealing screen time from the other people who are really well built up that we've been wanting to see or whatever, you know. But even like B stories in this, there's one central B story that happens literally next door to the main characters the whole time. And I just, even that is like fucking amazingly done. Like, so, again, I hate to, and I'll get to this in a minute, why I hate this so much, but like, wanky cinema thing of saying like, there's so much meat and subtext in that story that helps with the greater story that like, yeah, maybe you won't get it first time just by watching it and not really thinking on it. But if you do really think on it while you're watching it, you will get so much more from sticking with that B story as much as you can. And also it's so like vividly and intensely filmed to have that all happen and stuff. Is like, it's hard to miss the point in everything. And again, I say the reason why I hate some of that is not because it's bad, but because it means that the lights go up at the end of the cinema and a bunch of fucking wanky 15-year-olds behind me start talking about God knows what, and like so obnoxiously talking about God knows what as well. There was I had to avert myself from the cinema just to get away from it. Because it was like that classic thing of like ultra hyper film student-y 15-year-olds bringing their normal person with them to see a Jordan Peele film, and then finishing the movie like, so what do you think? What do you think of him? Do you think he's a good director or whatever? And then the guy's like, yeah, I just like the horses, and like that's like it, you know, because he's a fucking human being, not a film student. So that was pretty intense. But I suppose the joke's on me for going to the evening screening of Nope, I suppose. But there you go. Yeah, no, I thought, seriously, like, if you're still listening to this episode, fuck off. Just go and watch it. It's well worth your time. Oh my goodness.
The performances as well. They're so, like, top to bottom in this movie. They're fucking awesome. You're talking about that central B story. I don't even know if I'd refer to it as a B story. but I don't know what you would refer to it as, because it is, like you say, it ends up serving the main story and the themes of the movie so well.
Mm.
But yeah,
Well, and also we open with it as well, so it's not even technically
Yeah.
a B story; it's technically the A story, I suppose, isn't it?
yeah. But yeah,
But yeah.
everything that I don't want to say the actor's name because it'll give away who it ends up being about. You know, every single performance in this movie is fucking awesome. Daniel Kaluuya, it's this weird, like, the whole point of the character is he really lacks that kind of charisma, so that Keke Palmer can come in and just like steal the show at every fucking moment she's on screen. But he is so good in that kind of like more reserved role that he has, and everything he does with his eyes and his body language, everything like that. It's fucking like inch perfect every time. And then, like I say, Keke Palmer comes on the screen and just like lights everything up, and you just can't help but like enjoy every single line that she delivers, because it's just, there's so much energy to it, and half of it's just fucking hilarious anyway.
Yeah,
it's just such a it's just a great example of what a blockbuster movie should be, in terms of like showcasing these guys doing great stuff in a larger than life story like this. It's just like so fucking good.
Yeah. No, it's definitely. I think it's one of those movies that I want to see several times in the cinema. I think it's worth seeing several times in the cinema, because it is just, apart from anything else, it's just stunning. Like, stunning to look at in every frame, stunning to be a part of in every frame. Even down to things like musically, you know, you have this kind of dichotomy of like full blown horror, sound designy horror shit, and then you have the real like Spielbergian, Williamsy, like goofy, you don't really know the type of adventure you're going to get into, but you're going to make some friends along the way kind of music. It's like just smart. I think all of it plays, the tone is set so efficiently, and so not even just efficiently, but like effectively, that you are just swept immediately. You know exactly why you're here, and you know exactly what you're looking at. I tried to, as soon as I finished watching it, cast my mind back to Get Out, and I think it's like trumps that quite hard. I think it beats Get Out in a lot of ways, pretty significantly. I think it lacks the kind of nuance that movie has, but that's not necessarily an insult. Do you know what I mean? That's like yeah, of course it does, because that's not the point in this movie, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just so fucking glad they keep shoveling money at him to keep making good movies.
Yeah.
Like, just keep doing it.
It is great how after that one movie with Get Out, it just seems like he's got carte blanche for life now. I feel like he'd have to pull like a real M. Night Shyamalan-esque stinker move, or make like 2 movies like that back to back to lose this goodwill he has.
Yeah.
But it is just so great to see a guy who's got himself in this position, and he's found a way to like push himself even further and push the boat out and make something that's got this ambition to it and ends up coming off as well as it has. Yeah, it's just fucking like, I felt so good when the movie ended, just knowing that, and knowing that Jordan Peele's been able to do this and make shit like this. Just awesome.
Yeah. And there is some like, just to kind of go back to Grey Man, some of the comments I made on Grey Man, like, you can feel when a director has lived in the scene and picked the absolute best way to show what's happening in the screenplay, in the character's mind, etc. Like, you watch Grey Man and you feel nothing, because no one has gone like, oh, it'd be really important to see this shot at this point, or this angle at this point, or they need to be doing this while they say this, or while they think this. Every single scene is like meticulously like blocked out, so that everything a character does, there's no like fluff, you know? It's not like, oh, you need to be, I don't know, wiggling this glass of water as you speak, just so that there's something happening in the frame while you sit there and do nothing. Like, every single scene has significantly detailed like blocking and well thought out choreography and all that kind of stuff. And again, as you say, this is partially the actors, partially the director here, but like, delivery is almost insanely good at times. Like there's times where lines that anyone else could have said and it would have been completely fucked. But like, because it's that person saying it in that exact tone of voice, it's just, you're sold, you know? Like there's so much of that. And again, it's kind of wanky to kind of look at this closely, but it's not necessarily something you're constantly looking at. It's more something you're feeling every single time that, you know, these scenes are on screen. It's just, it wowed me, really wowed me. And not in just like it's a spectacular movie. It's like a big blockbustery movie. There's spectacular moments, sure, but like it wowed me even on a personal level of like, fuck, I'm like really committed to this, you know, seeing this character's lifestyle, how they're going to get out of this one in terms of like the drama, not even the action, but like the drama of like they're in a pickle or how they're going to, whatever, what's this guy about, you know, that kind of thing. There's like so much of that sincerity that we've been lucky this week that we've had so many just movies trying to be that. And this one I feel like is like the top of the league, top of the game, one of those. But yeah, I was floored. What else do you have to say about Nope?
I don't really have much else I want to say other than, that I'd kind of just echo what you say and say that there are so many moments in this movie that just feel like right. And I can't imagine the movie being done like any other way. Like, again, just like the performances and the casting. I cannot imagine any other actors portraying these characters than the guys that did the job here, and how just perfect they all are. And the same thing with how like the scenes are executed and specific shots and things like that. If you somehow do stumble across this and you've fucking sat here for however long and you haven't seen Nope, go and see Nope. Do yourself a favor. You'll fucking love it. You'll get scared. You'll fucking laugh your ass off. It was so good to be sat in a cinema on a Friday night and hear and be part of the laughter that was like smacking through the audience throughout this movie. It's just like, I can't remember the last time I've been in a movie that was legitimately like that. Again, like, it's easy to bash on Marvel movies, but it's just a number of times a joke gets told in those movies. You just sat there like, and if like one guy laughs, it makes it even worse somehow.
Yeah. Well, but also like the audience is in fear with you as well. Like there's that, and you feel it again. You don't hear people going like or whatever, but you hear them. You hear the awkward shuffle when they feel uncomfortable in particular long takes or spooky moments or whatever, and like you feel the rush of the room as these huge set pieces, several huge, like, again, not just like good, spectacular set pieces, but like just fantastic ideas are being depicted on screen. You feel everyone else have that same energy as you. And there's literally like a really big ticking clock by the end of the movie that you're kind of fully enveloped in. And everyone around you, you can almost hear that everyone's on the edge of their seat wondering whether this is going to happen or not, you know? And yeah, what a fucking great experience. This is exactly, I think this is, we like going to the cinema even to see shit Marvel films because we get to have a popcorn and we get to be in a dark room and it's nice and loud and we get to see some cool shit, whatever. This is like, they delivered on that and some. Like this is one of the better cinema experiences I've had in a while. So yeah, go see it. Go watch it. It's fucking wild ride. God damn. I think that about wraps this up. I mean, there's so much stuff has happened and come out in the last 3 weeks, but these are our selects, I think, and I think we picked some pretty good ones on accident. I wonder if next week or the week after or the following week, depending on our upload schedule, will give us the same satisfaction. Doubt.
I don't think so. I think we're going to have to be talking about She-Hulk.
Fuck's sake. Oh no. Fuck. You're right, aren't you? Unless we both start watching all of Breaking Bad and then Better Call Saul and
Oh
just
shit.
catch up for the ending or whatever. Food for thought. I feel like that is much more effort than watching a single series of She-Hulk and Try Not to Cringe challenge. She-Hulk edition. Fucking hell. That trailer that they dropped. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. I hope the show is not like that. It is though, isn't it?
Well, it will pretend to be that. It will pretend to be different. It will pretend to have its like quirky nature or whatever. But then it will just, I'm sure that everything they've shown from the trailers will be the first like 4 or 5 episodes or whatever. And then like everything, it will devolve into the same boring bullshit at the end with its overly serious shite and looking like ass, all the huge fights that are going to look like shit and have been rushed.
Yeah. Where it's like you see all the color trickle away from the screen, and then you have an end credits sequence that ties you in for the next series or something. You know, God flies down from planet God and says something along the lines of like, you have, oh fuck, I nearly just spoiled the ending of, what was that other show that they did? The Marvel, Miss Marvel, Captain.
Oh yeah, like you can spoil that. People don't give a shit.
Just fucking, fuck me. Actually, now I'm morbidly curious. No, I'm not enough, I don't think. We'll see what happens next week. Anyway, bye.